Growing up in America for decades and suddenly facing self-deportation and family separation, it is a startling reality for an estimated 200,000 young immigrants, so-called documented dreamers, who have legal status through their parents but age out of the program before they can get a green card. Members of Congress from both parties say that this quirk of the legal immigration system needs an urgent fix, but can they get it done? Here's our Devin Dwyer.
Pareen Matra has spent all but 4 months of her life at the University of Iowa.
Sometimes I'll see people who have had classes in elementary school.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
So the college senior is the daughter of 2 Indian immigrants who came to study here 20 years ago and who turned their degrees into successful careers as university staff.
What I know of India is purely from trips to see my grandparents, and this is my home.
She grew up playing in hallways of academic buildings where her mother taught language classes, and on the slides outside Iowa City Public Library, where she learned to read and would later volunteer.
I'm a Midwesterner, that's who I am.
You're a Midwesterner indeed. Pareen says she never questioned her immigration status or imagined the predicament she now finds herself in. Possible self-deportation to a country she doesn't know.
So I knew that I wasn't an American citizen. And I just remember being so confused, like, well, why not? Why wasn't I a permanent resident? Why am I different? Why is this happening to me?
As an infant through her teenage years, Pareen was in the U.S. legally as a dependent of her immigrant worker parents.
Everything I know is American. It just doesn't make sense for me to go back to a country that I've lived in for 4 months.
The family got in line for a green card in 2012, but the wait for some Indian nationals is estimated between 39 to 89 years due to visa caps and lengthy backlogs. When she turned 21 in April, the biomedical engineering student was abruptly thrust into a legal limbo, aging out of her dependent visa and the joint green card application with her parents.
Like dreamers, we come to this country as young children. And we grow up, and at a certain point, multiple points in our life, we do face the aspect of self-deportation.
The government has granted protection and work visas to hundreds of thousands of undocumented immigrants, known as dreamers, through the DACA program, a temporary Band-Aid created by President Obama after Congress failed to agree on a fix. But so-called documented dreamers like Pareen don't qualify.
I'm a documented dreamer.
I'm a documented dreamer.
I'm a documented dreamer.
I'm a documented dreamer.
There are more than 200,000 documented dreamers currently living legally in the United States, the children of parents on immigrant work visas.
Those documented dreamers, I think, are in a really difficult situation.
Immigration attorney Jessica Malott says the only legal option is the visa lottery system, which is complex and covered in red tape.
There are options, but all of those options are backlogged for the most part, and so it's not something that's a sure thing that's going to happen immediately.
The Department of Homeland Security pointed to several factors contributing to the backlogs, including the pandemic and a lack of adequate staffing. In a statement to ABC News saying DHS is aware of the predicament that these documented dreamers face and is working to find legal means to provide relief where possible. Pareen bought time with a short-term student visa while she finishes her degree, but after that, she'll either have to win a work visa through the lottery or be forced to make the difficult choice of staying with her family in the U.S. illegally or self-deporting to India.
My family and I did everything by the book. We have maintained documented status, and we are still stuck in this decades-long line.
For work visa holder and father of 3 Byung Yoon, the policy is creating slow-rolling family separations.
My children was like this place, so that's the reason why I remained here.
The small business owner in Portland, Oregon, says his oldest son aged out of a dependent visa and had to return to Korea on his own. 17-year-old Hillary Yoon, who's lived in the U.S. since she was an infant, may also have to leave her family behind.
She does not speak Korean very well, and she does not understand Korean culture very well.
There just hasn't been enough attention to this particular flaw in the immigration system.
Deep Patel has been sounding the alarm on Capitol Hill. Founder of the group Improve the Dream, he's been lobbying Congress to fix what experts call an unintended consequence of America's outdated immigration laws.
I think finally we're at a point where people are starting to recognize that this was an issue in the immigration system that really needs fixing.
At Deep's urging last spring, Perrine testified virtually before the House Judiciary Committee.
For the past 9 months, I've been awaiting approval for the change of status to F1 student. I also turned 21 less than 2 weeks ago, so I no longer have dependent status. I aged out of the system.
Members from both parties in the House and the Senate saying it makes moral and economic sense to throw a lifeline to documented dreamers.
Once you meet them, you realize what a contribution they're already making to this country and what greater contributions they will make in the future.
Congresswoman Deborah Ross of North Carolina is co-sponsoring a bipartisan House bill that would lift the threat of deportation and the inability to work.
What it does is it sets a path for residency, and then ultimately after residency, one of these dreamers could pursue citizenship, so that a young person doesn't have to immediately self-deport.
A similar measure has been introduced in the Senate, but with Congress deeply divided, immigration relief may be a long shot.
We're just going to keep pushing until we can obtain it, and I hope that we're really close.
Parents like Byung clinging to hope.
What I'm thinking is that America is an immigrant country. Some kind of immigration law will pass.
We're getting a lot of sympathy.
Sympathy doesn't solve your problem.
Right. Sympathy does not solve my problem. And so it is a step, and I'm grateful for that.
For ABC News, I'm Devin Dwyer in Iowa City, Iowa.